It's August 19th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. Starting with the first anniversary of the Camp David summit between the leaders of South Korea, the U.S., and Japan. The three sides once again endorsed their trilateral commitment to cooperate and stand together against North Korea's deepening nuclear threats. Talks are reportedly ongoing for a leaders' summit on the sidelines of a multilateral conference later this year. And to strengthen the defense posture against evolving threats coming from the north, Seoul and Washington are staging joint key summertime military drills named the Ulchi Freedom Shield for the next 10 days starting Monday. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is now in Israel, and what is his 9th trip already there since the war began to push for a Gaza ceasefire. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu insists that pressure should be put on Hamas, not his country. Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo marked 1 year since their leaders held a trilateral summit at Camp David last year, where they agreed to strengthen and broaden their cooperation beyond security in the region. Our Oh Soo-young leads us this morning.
The leaders of South Korea, the United States, and Japan reaffirmed their resolve to tackling North Korea's nuclear threat and other regional and global challenges as they seek to preserve commitments made at their Camp David summit last year. They released a joint statement to mark 1 year since their first ever standalone trilateral meeting. President Yoon Suk-yeol, US President Joe Biden, and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida on Sunday said they remain inspired by the spirit of Camp David and the Camp David principles as a roadmap for cooperation, as well as the commitment to consult on threats and challenges to their collective interests and security.
Previously limited to traditional security areas, the scope of trilateral cooperation has become comprehensive to include economic security, advanced technology, cybersecurity, development, and human exchanges.
According to Seoul's Deputy National Security Advisor Kim Tae-ho, major achievements include a real-time system for sharing North Korean missile warning information, the first ever multi-domain Freedom Edge exercise between their militaries, and the establishment of a trilateral security cooperation framework. The three countries are also making progress on economic security dialogue, early warning systems to stabilize supply chains, space security dialogue, quantum research, and youth exchanges. The most significant outcome of the Camp David summit has been to set in stone that trilateral cooperation by establishing annual meetings between leaders, national security advisors, and ministers of foreign affairs, defense, and trade.
Such efforts to institutionalize the Camp David framework are becoming all the more important, as Japan and the US will have new leaders take office in the coming months.
This trilateral cooperation was attainable under the top-down approach, which was initiated by three leaders. In this sense, if domestic politics are changed, this architecture might be affected. In short, this type of top-down approach is rarely expected any longer if three leaders are gone or become weaker in their political power. In this vein, a key question should be whether a bottom-up approach can function as an alternative to a top-down approach in the era of post-three leaders.
A senior Korean official on Sunday said Washington and Tokyo value the importance of the South Korea-US alliance and South Korea-Japan relations, as well as the significance of Camp David, indicating that the support of the Camp David mechanism remains sturdy regardless of political changes. Still, the official acknowledged the need to create the institutional infrastructure to ensure the three-way partnership is stable in the mid to long term, adding that the three governments are sharing their views on launching a trilateral cooperation secretariat. While discussions on holding a leaders' summit are in the early stages, the annual gathering is likely to take place on the sidelines of a multilateral conference later this year. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
And starting today, South Korea and the U.S. have kicked off an annual summertime military exercise aimed at countering North Korea's increasing missile threats and cyber attacks. The Ulchi Freedom Shield exercise is a major combined military and civil exercise that includes a computer-based simulation and combined field training exercises. It also includes civil defense drills involving government agencies, which are set to involve exercises that simulate a nuclear attack from North Korea for the first time this year. South Korea's military said this year's exercise will involve more combined field training than last year, as it's set to hold 48 outdoor drills, including field maneuvers and live fire drills on land, at sea, and in the air. The exercise will take place in South Korea for 11 days until next Thursday. Now, the first anniversary of the inking of a trilateral security cooperation deal comes ahead of leadership change in the U.S. in November, and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida's decision to step down and not seek re-election in the upcoming party leadership vote next month. Let's turn to Dr. Bruce Bennett for more. Hello there.
Hello.
So, like I said, it's been a year since South Korea, the U.S. and Japan secured their security cooperation pact. And there's also said to be a change of leadership over in Washington as well as in Tokyo. What would that mean for the trilateral cooperation and their partnership?
Well, the cooperation is always a function of the leaders and their willingness to work with each other. But increasingly, I think South Korea, Japan, and the U.S. recognize that there really is no choice other than to be cooperating, that the security threats in this region are significant, that the need for economic cooperation is significant. And so I think regardless of who the eventual leaders are, maintaining some degree of significant trilateral cooperation will be decided as a key policy for the three countries.
And also, starting this week, South Korea and the U.S. are conducting a major combined military drill to boost their joint defense readiness in the face of North Korea's growing military provocations. Now, what would that mean in terms of the partnership and the allies of Seoul and Washington working together to combat North Korean threats?
Well, North Korea seems to be searching for ways to challenge South Korea and the U.S. Kim has consistently talked about annihilating South Korea or totally destroying it. Well, he knows that if he does that, he's a dead man. That's not an option that's attractive to him. So he's looking for other ways to challenge South Korea and the U.S. And so it's critical for South Korea and the U.S. to do a diverse set of training, a diverse set of preparation, so that we're able to handle whatever his people finally decide to do in some form of more limited activity. Nevertheless, he's also potentially threatening limited nuclear activity. And so the commands in Korea will be looking at what happens if there is a nuclear attack from North Korea as part of this exercise to make sure that we are better prepared.
Well, so North Korea expected to be constantly challenging Seoul and Washington. Then does that mean North Korea will stage provocative acts in response to the summertime military drills?
They always have in the past. And so I think we can expect that Kim will do that. It gives him an opportunity to demonstrate his power and strength to his people, which is important to him maintaining control. But it's just the way he acts. It's the way he's tried to do it to make it look like South Korea and the U.S. are serious adversaries, when in practice, these exercises are purely defensive. There's no offensive characteristic of this.
So are you saying provocative acts even at a time when the North is going through difficult times because of the heavy downpours that they had?
Oh, yes. No, Kim needs to divert attention from the problems of North Korea, from the economy being in such terrible situation. And so he's focused on the downpours, trying to respond to that, looking like he's a responsible leader. But he's also trying to divert attention to the fact that the U.S. and South Korea are such terrible adversaries, the way he describes it, and therefore that he needs to spend so much on defense, when in practice, that's just not the case.
Well, at the same time, though, leader Kim Jong-un himself has been visiting his people in those flood-hit regions. What is he trying to show here?
Oh, I think he's trying to show that he's a man of the people, that he's concerned about the people. He can't provide the food for them, but he's trying to make it look like he's the good old leader of North Korea. It's a little difficult for him to make that case.
Well, then I'm sure that means North Korea will be holding off President Yoon Suk-yeol's proposal for the unification, of the two Koreas, which includes reigniting dialogue between Seoul and Pyongyang. Will North Korea show a positive response to the proposal? What do you think?
Well, look at what President Yoon said. President Yoon said this would be a freedom-based unification. That's something that Kim has no interest in. He doesn't want freedom for his people. So President Yoon's got the perfect idea. Needs to have more discussion of unification because sooner or later it is going to happen. We need to be making preparation. We need to be preparing the North Korean leadership for such a unification. And making it focused on being freedom-based is perfect. It's the right approach. But Kim is unlikely to be happy about that.
Well, then how likely is it that Pyongyang will actually respond to the vision after the U.S. election in November? Will North Korea stay silent about it at all?
Oh, I think North Korea will probably try to take up their own approach. They will probably attempt to focus on whoever the next U.S. president is and divert attention from President Yoon.
Let's see how that goes. All right, Dr. Bennett, thank you as always for sharing your insights with us. We appreciate it.
Happy to help. Thank you.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Tel Aviv on Sunday, marking his 9th trip to Israel since October 7, 2023. The trip comes ahead of Gaza ceasefire negotiations that have been underway since last week, but which have yet to produce any significant results. Blinken is set to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as well as the Defense Ministry and the Israeli President, before heading to Egypt for ceasefire talks. Meanwhile, Israeli airstrikes on Sunday killed at least 21 people in Gaza, including 6 children. However, Netanyahu is insisting that pressure should be put on Hamas and not Israel, adding that the militant group did not send a delegation during the ceasefire talks. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris continues to lead former President Donald Trump in nationwide polls, going into the Democratic Party's national convention, which will secure her as the party's presidential candidate. Lee Jae-myung has more.
Just a day before the Democratic Party's national convention kicks off in Chicago on Monday, another nationwide poll on the upcoming U.S. presidential election shows Vice President Kamala Harris leading former President Donald Trump. In the poll conducted jointly by Washington Post, ABC, and Ipsos on 2,335 adults nationwide from August 9th to the 13th and released on Sunday, the Harris-Walz camp leads the Trump-Vance camp 49 to 45% among registered voters, while the vice president has a 51% to 45% lead over Trump among likely voters. However, the latest poll shows that Trump leads Harris when it comes to some key issues in the United States. Respondents believe that Trump would do a better job in dealing with issues like the economy, inflation, immigration, and the prolonged conflict in the Middle East. When it comes to other issues like healthcare, abortion, and race relations, Harris has a double-digit lead over Trump. The latest poll also shows that Harris is enjoying growing support from swing voters. While Trump previously had a 4 percentage point lead over Joe Biden from independents in July, Sunday's poll showed that Harris has an 11 percentage point lead over Trump. Considered the classic swing voters, independents have gone with the winner in 9 of the last 12 presidential elections. Harris has seen slight leads over Trump in a number of other nationwide polls, but many pundits believe it's still too close to predict the outcome of November's election. While Harris officially won the Democratic presidential nomination in an online vote 2 weeks ago, she will accept the party's nomination and give her acceptance speech on Thursday, the last day of the 4-day national convention. Lee Jae-myung, Arirang News.
And here in the country, the Democratic Party yesterday launched its new leadership at its national convention. As widely expected, Lee Jae-myung was once again elected leader, securing an overwhelming majority of votes. Our correspondent Shinawatra reports.
At its national convention on Sunday at the K-Spo Dome in Songpagu district of southeastern Seoul, the main opposition Democratic Party of Korea announced its new leadership. Lee Jae-myung secured his second term with a landslide victory, winning 85.4% of the vote and beating two other candidates. He broke his own record set 2 years ago for the highest vote share ever for a DP leader and became the first leader in 24 years to serve 2 consecutive terms. The results were based on votes from dues-paying party members, which accounted for 56%, 14% from party delegates, and the remaining 30% coming from public opinion polls. In his acceptance speech, Lee emphasized the importance of improving people's livelihoods.
We will become a more competent party dedicated to improving people's livelihoods. Let's unite the wisdom and strength of our members and the public to build a better and new South Korea.
He also offered to meet with President Yoon Suk-yeol to discuss pending state affairs. And during the national convention, 5 Supreme Council members, Kim Min-seok, Chun Hyun-hee, Han Jun-ho, Kim Byung-ju, and Lee Yeon-ju were also elected. They are considered hardline supporters of Lee Jae-myung, creating a leadership that is strongly aligned with him. Although Lee Jae-myung's second term has begun, his legal challenges are expected to remain significant variables as he currently faces several court battles. These include corruption charges related to property development projects during his time as mayor of Seongnam City, as well as allegations of his involvement in illegal money transfers to North Korea. His first court verdict on election law violation charges is expected in October.
With Lee now chosen as the new leader, he's expected to focus on both improving people's livelihoods and taking a strong stance against the government as key elections lie ahead, including the presidential election in 2027. Shinawatra, Arirang News.
KTX services have resumed between Daegu and Gyeongju following a derailment on Sunday. Korail has announced repairs have been completed and normal services have resumed on Monday for the first train of the day. On Sunday at 4:38 p.m., a KTX Sancheon train heading to Busan from Seoul derailed when one of its wheels went off the tracks near Gomo Station in Daegu. All 384 passengers were safely transferred and no injuries were reported. After the derailment, hundreds of people crowded Dongdaegu Station in the heat, experiencing significant inconvenience. The South Korean Baseball League set a new single-season attendance record on Sunday. The Korea Baseball Organization announced that on Sunday alone, over 91,000 spectators gathered across 5 stadiums around the country. That brought this season's total attendance to approximately 8.47 million. Which is the highest ever, breaking the previous record set in 2017. The new record comes with about 80% of the 720 scheduled games played so far, with 147 games remaining. Despite the ongoing heat wave across South Korea, the season is expected to reach 10 million spectators for the first time.
Good morning, I'm Kim Seong, and this is The World Now. Ukraine continues its incursion into Russia's Kursk region, with the Ukrainian Air Force commander saying that it had destroyed a second strategic Russian bridge in a week. Now, Ukraine's military on Sunday released aerial footage of the strike on a bridge reportedly over the Seym River in Zvanoye, the second bridge in the same region to be destroyed after another strategic bridge on Friday. Ukrainian Air Force Commander Mykola Oleshchuk said that the aerial strikes will deprive the enemy of logistical capabilities, which significantly affects the course of hostilities. Ukraine is nearly 2 weeks into its biggest incursion into Russian territory seen since the Second World War. Kyiv says it has seized over 80 settlements across more than 1,000 square kilometers in the Kursk region since its surprise attack on August 6th. The Kremlin has vowed to retaliate, calling the Ukrainian incursion into Russian territory a major provocation. Now, Thailand's new Prime Minister, Paetongtarn Shinawatra, was endorsed by the country's king on Sunday, officially confirming her new position 2 days after Parliament voted in favour. 37-year-old Paetongtarn was approved by Thailand's King Maha Vajiralongkorn in a formal ceremony in Bangkok after winning nearly 2/3 of the vote in the House of Representatives on Friday. The daughter of divisive former Prime Minister and billionaire Thaksin Shinawatra, she became the youngest Prime Minister of Thailand only days after her predecessor was dismissed by the Constitutional Court. On Saturday, the new PM's father was granted an amnesty by the king from serving the remainder of an 8-year sentence for graft and abuse of power. Paetongtarn is the third member of a family to serve as Prime Minister after her father and aunt. Large protests in India over a trainee doctor's rape and murder continued on Sunday, despite the Indian Medical Association calling for an end to the strikes. Indian union doctors marched on the streets of Kolkata with thousands of people who came out in solidarity on Sunday evening, chanting, "We want justice." A day before, on Saturday, a 24-hour strike organized by the Indian Medical Association had more than 1 million people expected to join, forcing hospitals and clinics across the country to turn away non-emergency patients. The Indian Medical Association described the rape and murder of 31-year-old female junior doctor around 10 days ago a crime of barbaric scale due to the lack of safe spaces for women, telling the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in a letter that as 60% of India's doctors are women, safety and security measures are required to ensure the safety of their staff. Famed French actor Alain Delon, once described as the most beautiful man in cinema, died on Sunday, aged 88. He had reportedly been suffering poor health since a stroke in 2019, rarely leaving his estate in France's Val-de-Loire region. With his striking blue eyes, Delon was known for his on-screen tough guy persona in hits including Borsalino and The Samurai. French President Emmanuel Macron paid tribute to Delon on Sunday, saying the actor had made the world dream, while actress Brigitte Bardot said Delon's death left a huge void. Born just outside of Paris on November 8, 1935, Delon made almost 90 films during his career.
Good morning. The intense heat is showing no sign of easing out with a record-breaking stretch of consecutive tropical nights. Heat continues today with passing rain in the forecast for southern provinces and Gangwon-do province. Now, the 9th typhoon of the season, Jongdari, has developed southwest of Japan's Okinawa. And as the typhoon develops further and moves northwards, it will drop heavy rainfall to southern parts of Korea from tomorrow. And into Wednesday, the south coast and Jeju could see more than 100 millimeters of downpours. And for now, rain is forecast to lash down tomorrow night. So those near the water enjoying a late summer vacation need to stay on high alert. Meanwhile, this afternoon, Seoul and Daegu should get up to 35 degrees Celsius. Chuncheon, Busan, Gwangju topping out at 34 degrees. Now, the much-awaited Cheoseol, the second autumn season term, is this Thursday. But searing heat continues to bake much of Korea, at least through next week. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day and Arirang. Have a wonderful start to the week.
We change today, inspiring daily life. We create tomorrow, inspired by innovation. Change today, create tomorrow. Lotte.
진짜 한국에선 어떻게 먹는지 알려줄까?
K-바비큐? 신김치랑 먹어야지.
치킨? 치맥 페스티벌은 처음이지?
김치? 종류만큼 먹는 법도 가지각색.
김밥? 시장에선, 산에선, 바다에선 이렇게.
국밥? 취향 따라, 입맛 따라.
이런 한국, 와보지 않고는 모를걸? 요즘 한국에선 어떻게 노는지 알려줄까?
한국에선 아이돌이 되어볼 수도, 인생 번호를 찾을 수도 있지. 제일 핫한 포토 스팟은 여기. 한국은 분명 너에게 새로운 영감을 줄 거야.
이런 한국, 와보지 않고는 모를걸?
bringing a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bring news just for you. It's Monday, August 19th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin, and you're watching News Generation. Today, we're joined by Walter Lee.
Lovely to be here.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
And Fabio Gonzalez.
Hi, happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Now, both the readers speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. Like always, we're going to start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending online. Thailand's king officially endorsed Paetongtarn Shinawatra, the daughter of former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra, as the country's new prime minister on Sunday. At 37 years old, Paetongtarn has become Thailand's youngest prime minister and the second woman to hold the position. The approval came just days after her predecessor, Seta Thavisin, was ousted by the Constitutional Court for breaching ethics rules by appointing to the cabinet a lawyer who had previously served time in prison. Moving on, South Korea's exports of processed rice products, including frozen kimbap, instant rice, and rice cakes, reached a record high for any January to July period this year. According to the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, the total export value of these products soared to $166 million, an increase of nearly 46% compared to the same period last year. If this momentum continues, the annual export value could surpass last year's record of $217 million. The ministry attributed this surge to growing international demand for home meal replacements and gluten-free foods. Finally, new survey results indicate that younger generation is calling for significant reforms to the National Pension Service in Korea to ensure they receive their pension benefits in the future. According to the polling agency Kursk on Sunday, the most common reason cited by those in their 20s and 30s for supporting pension reform is the desire to secure future payments when they reach retirement age. This concern contrasts sharply with the top reason given by respondents in their 50s who are more focused on addressing the fiscal instability of the current system. Under the existing framework, individuals aged 18 to 59 who earn an income are required to contribute 9% of their earnings to the pension fund. Now, based on previous pension reforms, individuals currently in their 20s and 30s who contribute to the system for at least 10 years can expect to receive 40% of their average income from the 3 years leading up to their retirement once they turn 65. So here in the studio, I want to ask our panelists who are part of the younger generation, why is the younger generation so anxious about the possibility of their pension funds running out?
Well, as the oldest member of one of the oldest members of this panel, I do worry about my pension running out. I mean, I put enough in to maybe keep me for a good couple of years, but I can't imagine living off my pension for the rest of my life after retirement, which is scary. It is good that the government does give a lot of benefits to the pensioners, like free public transportation, but compared to the past, we live in a different economy that is like seeing a higher inflation without any pay raise. I honestly don't know what we are going to do, but I think that, you know, due to the aging society as well, these are some problems that are, you know, people like me, people like anyone who's younger than me as well, are worrying about when it comes to retirement and their pension.
Right, because we're seeing more number of the older generation. So if there are more older people, they're going to get their retirement funds, which means that there is a lower possibility of us, the younger generation, to get our pension money in the future when we become part of the senior population.
Right.
So this is the reason why the pension system and the calls for pension reform is increasing here in Korea. Now, Fabio, I want to ask the situation in Spain. Does Spain also have a public pension system? And how does it work? And is the younger generation in Spain also worried about their pension money running out?
Well, I would say that the system is pretty similar with South Korea. It's basically founded by a payroll tax on the salary. And Spain is also just as South Korea, a country with a high life expectancy. We also have a low fertility rate, and the population is basically an age population. This means that most of the contributors to these taxes are basically middle-aged people, and most of the young people, the young generation, is mostly focused on getting a stable job, which is hard these days. And I feel like in 30 years, probably most of these middle-aged workers are probably going to retire, and that means that most of the burden is going to be on the young generation. I feel like this is a point that does concern the young people, but for the record, I think most of the young generation is mostly focused on just getting a stable job.
But I think they're becoming more worried as they age, as they reach the retirement age. Now, the Korean government is set to announce its latest reform to the National Pension Service late this month or earlier next month, so we'll have to see see what kind of changes are going to be made. And that was our news feed for this Monday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion of the day by taking a look at the screen.
In recent years, personal mobility vehicles, such as electric kickboards and throttle-driven e-bikes, have increasingly taken over Korea's roads. According to Korea's road traffic law, these vehicles include those with one or more wheels, a single seat, and an electric motor, with a maximum speed of 25 kilometers per hour and a weight of 30 kilograms or less. Their rise has sparked growing concerns about their safety and need for regulation. Recently, BTS member Suga was involved in an incident where he drove an electric scooter under the influence of alcohol. Although it was later clarified that the scooter he used didn't technically qualify as a personal mobility vehicle, the incident still highlighted the ongoing safety issues associated with these vehicles.
Right, so these personal mobility vehicles, PM vehicles for short, have become particularly popular among the younger generation, offering a fast and convenient way to get around. So I want to first ask our panelists, do you also use these vehicles regularly? How about the people around you?
I don't use them regularly, and I have never ridden one of these electric scooters or bikes before, so I did a little bit of research for the show.
Wow.
And before today's show, I went and signed up to use them.
Wow, how dedicated.
And yes, I have to say that I am converted and I want to use them more often, though my wife strictly asks me not to use the scooters ever again because
is there a reason?
Are very, very dangerous. That's the reason why. However, I never realized, look at me go. Look how much fun I'm having. That's a face of someone who's having a lot of fun, not serious at all. I'm terrified, by the way. That is going really fast for me. I never realized how many rules actually you had to follow by riding these forms of transportation. There are tons of rules. People around me, they don't really use them because they either live outside of Seoul and they work within Seoul. But if they're just getting around, I guess they might use them. So it doesn't really work out for them or for me, but I really want to have an excuse to use them again. I even bought a nice little helmet just for that day and I want to use it again. But unfortunately, my wife has nagged me not to use them.
Walter's wife, please don't watch today.
Yes, I'm not going to use them again.
Well, just like Walter, I've never ridden these electric kickboards, which are often known as electric scooters in other parts of the world. So it was actually my first time trying out this electric kickboard. It was really scary because I didn't know that 25 kilometers, which is a speed limit, could go that fast.
Yes.
And I also agree with you that there are a lot of rules because you must wear a helmet, you have to ride these vehicles on the designated bicycle roads. So a lot of rules that the drivers of these PM vehicles have to abide to. Now, to you, Fabio, have you ever ridden these vehicles?
Actually, not really. I think the only one that I tried are the hoverboards, which are not really available for public use that much. I love riding bicycles, so I would definitely want to try this kind of like electric bicycles. I never use the scooters though, but I definitely think that it would be pretty fun. I would like to try it, but I think that a lot of young people will agree. The system can be a little bit confusing at times. You don't really know what you need to prepare, and also at the same time, it feels a little bit inconvenient or even situational. It feels like you need to be in the specific road. It doesn't seem like a vehicle you can ride anywhere, right? And also like the speed thing seems a little bit dangerous at times, right? So maybe for a more calm place, it could be a good option, but definitely not a vehicle that I would consider for a day-by-day transportation method.
I see. Now, talking about safety concerns, while these vehicles have become increasingly prevalent in Korea, they've also led to a rise in related accidents in recent years, becoming a significant concern, right, Walter?
That's correct, yes. Without stereotyping any generation, can you guess which generation is most prone to accidents? Well, let's take a look at the screen to see. Well, it turns out that the under-20s top the accidents with 32.4%, with people in their 20s, 32.1%. People in their 30s, like me, we are pretty safe, 14.7%. And the obviously other generations that are older, they make up, the baby boomers, etc. 20.8%. So I'm not surprising to see the statistic, to be honest with you. Most of the people I see on them people are either in their 20s or under their 20s.
Right, so our generation seems to be the primary user of these vehicles because they account for 70% based on the graph that you've shown, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Right, so I want to ask you, Fabio, we always want to know about the causes behind what's triggering this high number and increase of accidents. So do you think this is due to a lack of necessary regulations or some other reasons?
Probably. I feel like the current legislation does leave the door open for a lot of problems. For example, drunk driving or driving without a license. I feel like Walter also talked about the system not being clear enough about really showing your credentials, right? And at the same time, I feel like obviously this kind of self-responsibility is important, but we also need to take into account that there's not that many infrastructure designed for this kind of vehicles. Maybe there's no specific type of paths that are designed to use these vehicles.
Other than the bicycle roads,
exactly.
right?
Exactly. You would either have to use these bicycle roads, just the plain road, or also maybe the pedestrian path, which could be very dangerous at some times, right? And then just to clear it up, I feel like we don't really know that much about this kind of vehicles. So for example, a lot of them, like the scooters, they have a very sensitive battery. So that means that overcharging it or not charging it correctly or making a very extreme use of it could also lead it to it exploding or catching fire. And this happened in Barcelona, where a lot of cases of fires and explosions actually led to the city to ban these scooters on public spaces, like for example, subways.
Oh, I see. So it's definitely becoming a growing safety concern, not only here in Korea, but in other parts of the world. So much so that cities like Paris, France, and Melbourne, Australia have decided to even ban rental or shared electric scooters, which once again we know as electric kickboards here in Korea. So to our panelists, what are your thoughts on this decision?
Well, listen, you and I have talked about this briefly before about my thoughts. Though I'm now converted, I do really like them. I still think that they have to be more strict when it comes down to the rules and regulations of it. As Fabio mentioned some really good points just before, like infrastructure, etc. You know, even though I've signed up to use them, it was very interesting the way that they didn't really ask for me to put in my license, even though by law you're supposed to have a license. So it wasn't compulsory for me to put it in, but it's compulsory by law. So I don't know how that works. So I really think they need to be stricter with these laws and rules. But when it comes to using any of these sort of electric mobility scooters, but like I said last time we talked about this, I feel like I'm repeating myself. It seems like I'm talking to a wall when it comes to changes on these scooters and bikes. I really think, we'll talk about it a bit later, that things need to change.
Right, because by law you need to have a moped license or a driver's license to be able to operate this vehicle. But in reality, the businesses or the companies that operate these PM vehicles, they are not mandated by law to verify the driver's license or the moped license of the driver. So this is definitely an area that needs to be looked into and needs improvement. What are your thoughts on this, Fabio?
I feel like if Korea wants to keep these e-scooters specifically in the streets, it might look up to some cities like Copenhagen in Denmark, which actually provided the same service for a few years, but because of the big amount of e-scooters and the high rate of accidents, they actually had to ban it in 2020. But then they brought it back in 2021 with some new regulations and a more safe background. And I feel like it might be working since they didn't really ban it again. I'm not really sure about the opinion of the citizens, but I think that this could be an option, you know, making some stricter regulations and maybe building necessary infrastructure so that it could be more safe and sustainable.
Right. So I think there is kind of like a common consensus among us that safety regulations regarding these vehicles need to be strengthened. Now, to look at the situation in other parts of the world, we also asked our viewers if they're seeing a lot of personal mobility vehicles on the streets in their countries and what their thoughts are on these vehicles. And here's what 3 of them said. So if we look at the comments, Leonteo93 says PM devices have seen a surge in popularity in Singapore due to their convenience and affordability. However, numerous accidents incidents involving PMDs, including fatal ones, have raised concerns about public safety. Also, the government has struggled to effectively regulate them due to their rapid proliferation. Sunny J99 says personal mobility is getting more popular because it's convenient and helps us move around without having our own car, which is expensive. However, I think strict and clear regulations are required regarding these devices as there are more accidents happening. Benny D97 says here in the Philippines, we are considering having it, and I do that we need to study about the details of how it will affect our society. So we've taken a look at our viewers' comments. Now, for more insights on the reasons behind the PM vehicle boom and what kind of regulations might be necessary, we're now going to invite an expert to our talks right after this break. So today we're joined by Moon Young-jun, a professor at the Global Commercialization Center at the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. Welcome, Professor Moon, to the show.
Hi, how are you?
Great, I'm great. Hope you are great as well. Happy Monday.
Thank you for inviting me.
Lovely to have you. So our first question for you, Professor Moon, is how were personal mobility vehicles first introduced to Korea, and what do you think has contributed to their rapid rise in popularity?
Yes, as you mentioned in the before that this kind of mobility, the service is typically for the young generation. Okay, so the main purpose of this mobility services is that how we can change the mode share, typically from the personal vehicle to the shared one. Okay, in order to reduce our traffic congestion in the road, as well as in order to the traffic safety problems on the road. And one more thing is in order to save our globe in terms of because we are facing on climate change issues. That's the main purpose. But it's not this personal mobility is not going for taking the mode for the long distance. It's only in the short and medium distance, it can provide something, okay, for the people. That's why the Seoul Metropolitan, they introduced the mobility services from the year 2010, I believe. Okay, that's because as you remember, year 2007, France in Paris, they introduced Believe, okay, so shared the bicycles on the city. That's why the Seoul Metropolitan 3 years later, they are trying to get some kind of test trial. We introduced this kind of mobility services in Seoul Metropolitan. Okay, so but actually at this moment, electric the bicycle or electric kickboard, they have more than 45,000 the devices, and also in a small Sejong city. I'm living in Sejong City. And you know the Sejong City, right?
Yes,
yes. The Sejong City, we have more than 4,000 devices, to be provided for the people. Okay?
Yeah, thank you, Professor. That's a very good insight. We're running a little bit out of time, but why do you think there are growing calls for strengthening regulations on these vehicles?
Yes, definitely safety problems. Okay, so actually, in case of if you're running. The electric kickboard running over 25 km/h. How do you feel? So dangerous. Okay. So I just typically in spring and the fall the season, I try to take the electric kickboard to the commute to our research institute from the few years later. I just taking my helmet and also I'm taking the bicycle road, not the vehicle road, okay, not the motorway, but because the Sejong city take a regulation of the electric kickboard is running on the bicycle road, okay, if you don't have any bicycle road on your hand on your way, you have to take the motorways, okay? But you have to take the helmet, okay? And also but Sejong City from the last year, they just trying to reduce the speed limit of the electric kickboard, reduced to the 20 kilometer per hour, not to 25, okay? So this kind of the regulation is pretty much related to how fast you are moving on, okay? And because the carelessness on because you take the electric kickboard, then some younger people, they have to watch the YouTube on their mobile phone, okay, while they're driving. Okay, it's very dangerous in case.
Right.
So that's why I strongly believe in case of we want to strengthen this regulation, is that how we try to make make the safety of we say the vulnerable users, okay? This VRU, how we can protect the VRU on the safe on road, okay, as well as safe on the driving. Okay, this is what we are making some kind of some promoting because we have to promote this new mobility. Okay, it's not for the selling the personal vehicles as well. We have to promote this new mobility as as alternative for the future for the young generation.
Right. Professor, I think you just answered our third question, our last question as well. So thank you so much for your valuable insights today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. So just in case, I'm gonna stress something. If you are making some more detailed rules of regulations on the electric or personal mobility, I don't think it's going to be a good way. So instead, you have to provide some kind of safe road, okay? For example, you can go to Paris, around the Seine River, the 4-lane road, they have to cut down the 2-lane road for the vehicle. The other 2 lanes, one of each lane, is for the vulnerable road user moving lanes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. When you go to the Netherlands, Amsterdam.
Oh, Professor, I'm so sorry, but we're currently running out of time. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Thank you.
This is what I want to know. We have to provide some more infrastructure. Okay.
Definitely more infrastructure. Thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we hope our discussion today on PM vehicles help you know more about the vehicles and what kind of regulations are needed moving on. And that's all from us today, but Newsday will be back tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Korea time. Special thanks today to Walter Lee.
Lovely to be here.
And Fabio Gonzalez.
A pleasure.
And thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. We are
News Generation.
진짜 한국에선 어떻게 먹는지 알려줄까?
K-바비큐? 신김치랑 먹어야지.
치킨? 치맥 페스티벌은 처음이지?
김치? 종류만큼 먹는 법도 가지각색.
김밥? 시장에선, 산에선, 바다에선 이렇게.
국밥? 취향 따라, 입맛 따라.
이런 한국, 와보지 않고는 모를걸? 요즘 한국에선 어떻게 노는지 알려줄까?
한국에선 아이돌이 되어볼 수도, 인생 번호를 찾을 수도 있지.
제일 핫한 포토 스팟은 여기!
한국은 분명 너에게 새로운 영감을 줄 거야.
이런 한국, 와보지 않고는 모를걸?